Wendy, thank you for having me here and the KINBER board. I met a few of you earlier and during the course of this conference, but I must say it goes right back at Wendy. The relationship we've had with so many of us who are here, in the arena of networking, especially national arena, Wendy comes very handy. We do the same backwards. Pick up the phone and say, here's the problem, how can we handle it? And I think she brings a lot of that collaborative nature into KINBER, so I was very happy when I heard the announcement that Wendy is seeking and getting KINBER to go ways, I guess. And I'm very pleased to meet with many of you at this conference. I'm always there learning from others, especially neighboring states. And today what I'll try and do is give you the story of OAR Net in Ohio. And believe me or not, this Building Communities theme did not just come because you have your community creation team, but this has been happening for many years. So we'll get started here and hopefully we'll have time for a few questions at the end. And I know that I'm holding you back from your mode of transportation to get out of here soon. I have myself about a 6-hour drive back, so we'll try and do as fast as we can. However, I'll be here to answer all your questions if you have any. So, with that, let me get started. I will start with this video. Some of you have seen it. I won't call it as a viral video that has gone on YouTube yet. But I can assure you that I have received calls from at least 8 states saying they have used this to do some good work in their state. So I, once again, feel very happy that we can work with each other and contribute. So take a peek at it. My talk today has about 2 or 3 small clips. It won't be very long, a minute and a half or less. So here's the first one.
We're going to increase the speed of OAR Net from 10 gigabytes per second to 100 gigabytes per second. And what does this mean?
It means OAR Net is continuing its tradition of leading the nation by staying one step ahead of the technology curve. OAR Net is the link between job-creating business and next-generation innovations. It also provides access to colleges and universities, K-12 schools, healthcare facilities, public broadcasting stations, and state and local governments. Ohio is the first state to invest in and deploy groundbreaking statewide broadband speeds, 100 gigabits per second, across 1,850 miles of fiber. From Cleveland to Cincinnati, Toledo to Portsmouth, Dayton to Worcester, and major points in between. Also to Internet 2, the International Information Superhighway.
OAR Net's 100 gig network really helps Ohio, not only just for supporting the great research institutes, but also for the cutting-edge industrial innovation that's happening. Our business focuses on modeling and simulation for the automotive industry, and we chose Ohio over other states like North Carolina, Indiana, or Michigan because of the advanced technology infrastructure that's available here in Ohio.
The newly announced Research and Innovation Center will leverage OAR Net's immense high-speed bandwidth and powerful supercomputers for Ohio to create new technologies, generate new jobs, and help to improve the economic position of the
OAR Net,
state.
you've heard it here first. Believe in it. It can change the face of the entire state of Ohio.
So someone would say, how do you hire such a lobbyist on your team, right? There's a story behind it. I'll get to it, but 18 months before this happened, right, an hour before our board meeting, I got an email from somebody in Dayton, and they sent me a clip from Dayton Daily News, which said, and this is, remember the time of transition, we just had a Democratic governor who had lost election, and Kasich had just come in, and this was a transition period, and the note said, have you read this? And in the clip that Governor Kasich probably spoke at some event, said the turnpike, the liquor licenses, and OAR Net are sale as it would come. So this video happened 18 months after that, which means we were not sold, right? But we'll take you through the story. So things happen. Community is great. We have a great team. Here's a background. So, 1987, like many of the networks today are, I think Merit is one of the oldest one we have. But the way OAR Net was born was because Ohio had a failed NSF proposal. So the latest book I'm reading, which is great, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. I guess we learned from here that you lost something, but whoever at that time in '87, the Chancellor, the Board of Regents, as well as the community, higher ed, came together and said, let's put the matching funds to work. Let's not take it away. And so they got their first supercomputer center, a small Cray machine. And few months later, universities up in North and South started saying, what about us? How are we going to get to this supercomputer, or are you giving us monies to do that, right? That's how it works. So that's where OAR Net came into being, and we pulled out this map from our 25th anniversary, which was last year, to show you there were 14 56 kilobit circuits. That was our high-powered internet in the state. So State of Ohio DAS gave us this map, we pulled it out, and you can see how the schools are connected then, at that point, to start with. What I'm trying to say is it takes a while to build these communities, and what people you are seeing here are some of them who have even passed away, but others who really went into the research. The left top corner, he was one of the first directors, Charlie Bender, at the Ohio Supercomputer Center. Many of you know his name, and so on. So this is how an organization came into being. Networking was just to support, at that time, data. And we are still doing that today, right? All our peaks are because we have supercomputing and other experiments, and then we work on the internet for the rest of us. So fast forward, 2003, OAR Net acquired some dark fiber. And our business model is slightly different. We did not build this. We came in with all the monies that we could, including our operating dollars, our capital dollars. We went and pleaded to give us some extra monies from the state third year program, and all of that we patched together. I think about $20 million total at that time, out of which we used about $8 million for equipment, and the remaining went into procuring a 20-year lease IRU on fiber. Right? And then our brilliant team, Dennis Walsh and Paul Shopis, built that fiber around and basically created a mesh network. And the whole point then, when we had about 14 presidents sign this as a promissory note that we will save the money, it was to reduce cost, to increase the capacity, and then establish redundancy. Now, this was all way before BTOP and other things came in. So this was in 2002-2003 time frame. And Doug Gale, who used to be our OAR Net's executive director, played a very important role in having a strategy to get this fiber. He would knock at every door. I used to work for him then and see how you can open this up and say, hey, fiber is the way to go, let's work on it. So that strategy came together. And it was very interesting that the schools bought it, because we could just explain to them that we are bringing the connections closer to you. And I think that they just bought on the faith and the trust that was built over so many years that we came together. So, taking you through the community. So we built the higher ed communities. OAR Net has about 92 universities on it, public, private, 2 years, 4 years. And all of these universities are connected onto our backbone. We use our friends from private sector to do connections with our middle mile and last mile. Here's a small clip from Wright State University of how they feel about the services.
We looked at all their alternatives as for suppliers for internet service, and the answer keeps coming back, OAR Net. It's really a no-brainer. Anybody that you will provide service to, they'd be crazy not to take it because of the rock-solid service. There's no downtime, there's no problems, there's no issues, and it's a partnership.
It's a partnership. That's the important piece, because many times, even today, we walk into a new CIO at a university or at a state agency, and they begin to treat you like a vendor. takes about half hour, 40 minutes before you sit down with them and explain, this is not about a vendor. If that's the case, then there are lots of elements. This is about a partnership that we have to build together. So that's the message that we've been giving, and we've been successful. It takes a while to build that. So 2005-06, right? Until now, it's a higher ed network, just like how we all are. And I think KINBER right now is mostly higher ed dominated. That's where it all comes from. We need to be there. But beginning then, K-12, we started talking to them, and they started talking to us. Believe me, Linda Roos here was on our staff, and she knows how many false starts we went. Together, until today, we have had 7 false starts with the state, and as I build up, you will see where that has led. So you never give up. It's the question is, every time you hit a roadblock, you're going to find somebody who gets to understand the mission. And as long as we are honest and open and transparent with our mission, explaining what we are doing, it works out. It takes a while. So K-12 came on board. We basically first had a parallel network with them, and then a year later they said, we don't need all this equipment, too much maintenance. So we have a contract now with them, and we collapsed their entire backbone onto our network. Similarly, public broadcasting stations. I know Internet Too has been having discussions with CBS, and OAR Net served as an example a few weeks ago when they were called in as to how we have done this. So we have all of the state's public broadcasting service. I remember critically one evening I was asked, they are willing to come if you can make a business case because they don't understand it. So I had to learn myself technology, sit down with Paul, Dennis, and the rest of the team and come up with some arguments as to why. I'm talking in 2006-07 time frame. And what we quickly realized is 9 public broadcasting stations were using satellite downfeed. And it was costing them 6 digits a year for doing those downloads. And we quickly realized that all we need is 2. If we have 2 downloads and up and down uplinks and downlinks to the satellite, we would be fine. And so when we just showed the savings coming out of not having to do so much of download because you can centrally move data over our network, we got to sign up for it. That took almost 18 months to come up, and they said, why are you dragging your feet? Oh, we don't have a business case. Can you help us? So we had to sit down with WOSU's director and figure out exactly how they do their business. Just another reason as to how one has to go and meddle with their business model. But if somebody is ready to listen to it, then healthcare. All of our state hospitals are on the network. We have Cleveland Clinic and we have Children's Hospital and some others. We do not knowingly put private sector companies or others on our network, although we do for economic development and for research. So here is a testimonial from Dr. Ali Razai. He's one of them who is going to highly benefit from the 100 million brain scan and brain program for neurology that has come out of Washington, where they want to do all of the mapping of the brain so we can do better with Alzheimer's and others. He's one of the very, very renowned researchers. His experiments is putting chips in the back of the mouth and the brain, and he can almost stop all of the shaking of an Alzheimer's patient. And I've seen this live. And so governor has become his fan, and for him to say this just helps us. Right? We added another lobbyist to our team. So it's a document. Local governments and counties. So those have come in. City of Dublin was our first local government that came in, and then since then we've had numerous, Tuscarawas County and City of Columbus and others. Again, a slow and steady piece. We work with them. Most likely we are the disaster recovery site. Sometimes they want to use a network. Other times we connect with the schools and libraries and so on. So the partnership continues, and we move forward to 2010-12, and this is where the BTOC came. And it was interesting. We went to the governor's office and said we would like to write this grant. So we would have been akin to KINBER or FCNC or Merit for that reason, and we were told, no, you're not going to do that. So we said, why? And they said, well, politically not good for you, private sector, let them do it. I said, okay, fine. We sat down, first round, there were 3 proposals. Those 3 areas, generally speaking, each one of them rebuilding a network in Ohio, 88 counties big. Somebody in DC called me and said, "Are you guys crazy?" I said, "What happened?" He's saying, "I've got 3 proposals for Ohio. First of all, how come OAR Net's name is not on it?" So I had to explain the political realities. So they said, number 1, that has to come. Number 2, you've got to have a comprehensive proposal. Speak to somebody. Don't lose this. There's some nice people out there looking out. Went to the governor's office and went to the chancellor, and he said, "Can you pull this together?" I'm like, 6 weeks? It's round 2? Anyway, we got a very good person, and Obey, who now works for Internet too, and we hired her because she did a good job at Merit. And she helped us put this together, a consortium. And basically a proposal went out whereby OAR Net was not the main respondent. We made sure that we were abiding with the governor's wishes. So we became the group, and instead of each one of them replicating, they all 3 wrote proposals and subdivided the area with OAR Net in the middle. So we ended up with about $141 million for the entire state, and basically these 3 respondents got those grants, and we've connected. So as of last I know, these are the different anchor institutions that have either a middle mile or a direct last mile connected because of these grants. And that opened the door for the K-12 and libraries and others to connect back to work. We talked about, Dave mentioned this morning about aggregation, and I cannot tell you, but this is what I carry in my back pocket as an elevator speech to any policymaker. When they talk about what efficiencies can you gain, why should somebody connect to you, I give them these percentages and I challenge them that I can give them all the data behind this map. And you can see in about 2002-3 time frame, we used to buy about 250 megs for the internet across the state. Linda used to sell that for us, right, going around the state. And today, we buy 65 gigs. And because of the partnerships, we work with other states as well to do that. And that has really worked out well for us. You can see how K-12 has collapsed all its needs and aggregation, how state government, public broadcasting stations, all of those entities which were just connecting initially to be part of and connecting within Ohio have started aggregating their internet traffic as well with us. And QUIT has come in handy. The contracts we use there as a national organization, we do that, and we provide 4 or 5 different providers, so we have good diversity as we move along. So most powerful place, as you reduce the rates, you can see how good the CIOs and others feel, and that's what I think you heard from Right State when he said it's a no-brainer. So last mile, and this is the world we live in, right? In Ohio, as I said, we don't own this fiber. We have a 20-year IRU. We are in year 9. We have 11 more years to go. But we work very closely with private sector. So again, we are partners. There are times when we have to explain ourselves to the policymakers. We don't step on each other's toes. In fact, I heard Governor Kasich at one of the forums when he was cornered and said, you were working on this and this project will be harmful to private sector. He's now learning. He says, do you have the middle mile? Yes. Do you have the last mile? Yes. Then leave the backbone alone. That's for us to do. So it's a question of trying to get them to understand and put them and show them how this works. And they benefit. So 2011-12, again, I was just talking, growth is what gets us. We have peaks and valleys. So I go from an internet to meeting, and we knew we were very close to 100 gig, and all of these SDNs and the science DMZs were coming through. And I put up a plan out there, along again with the team, Dennis, Paul, myself, others, and we said, can we connect the Tri-C corridor, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland, and ask for some monies in the capital funds. Well, the next call I got was amazing. Why only 3 cities? What can you do so we can have all of it connected? Right? We need more money. Yeah, how much? So the first statewide network came in 2011-12, higher ed institutions were with a minimum of 1 gig. This was the selling point. We had a buy-in from the university. We said, if we can get this money, we can help you buy. We will help you. So we gave each one of them, I think, about $30,000 to go and provision and upgrade their connections, those who were below. So we got $13 million from the administration, and we earmarked $1 million for these last mile connections. Just a small share of what we could do. And then, like we were talking this morning with Dave and others, economic development is a key word. We have very important job creation situations in the states like ours, Rust Belts. And so we have to work our way through this, through our mission, work through our university partners and explain to them, this is not diluting anything you're doing, but only showing it up. The more people we get on our network, all of us should get better outcomes. So those became our pillars as we got an influx of $13 million to get our network upgraded. And you saw the governor's State of the State. That's where we took those clips from. He actually announced that in the State of the State address, talking about OAR Net as a clip. So then came a challenge, and this is what I say both to Internet, to ourselves and all of the communities. There is never a steady state. I realized that over so many years now. When I came back to OAR Net in 2005-06 time frame, again Linda was there, for all others. At some point we sat down in management team and said, okay, we've got 2 or 3 years, we'll be in steady state. I was lying to myself, right? That never happens. Because you can see, so again, we have to be agile. So we sat down quickly before things happen. With all these new communities added to the network, can you imagine two presidents, 5 CIOs and 2 researchers making all the decisions for the network? That doesn't work. So we came together, and at that point there was changes in governance. We do still maintain all of the integrity so that the CIOs and the universities have a lot to contribute to making decisions. But in our advisory board, Chancellor, who I report to on the state side of the house, and I report to Office of Research at Ohio State for our fiscal agents, Chancellor is in the governor's cabinet. So it's a strong message that this network has a support directly from the administration. We have the state CIO on our board, Jobs Ohio, which is a new creation, which is very controversial in Ohio, but has brought in a lot of new businesses in, is a not-for-profit, which is basically incubator, or not incubator, creating and bringing new businesses into Ohio. They are on our board. And then we have private sector. We added all of those. We have a person from the bank for our fiscal stuff. We have a healthcare person, and P&G and Honda, which I'll talk about as I close my comments today, of how we have now ventured into territories where we are using and enabling all of our infrastructure to get some work done in economic development. And then the 4-year, 2 years, and the private schools are on our network as well, so each one of them is well represented. So, you saw the vision, shared services, economic development. So, here is a prime example of what we can do through aggregation. VMware came to us and in 2008-11, where the name was very little. You can go and look at their stock value. They were barely listed on, and I don't have those numbers here, but you can look it up. They were a very small company. We sat down, worked with them, regions were involved, and had the first major contract with them, and then they replicated a few around the state. We were talking, we gave references and things. But this is a huge save. When the state CIO goes out and says, I have saved $22 million because of the VMware contract, that's a huge sell for bringing people together. So as we started with higher ed, you can see those 3 columns that you're seeing. The 3.3 million, for example, the green, light green shade there, turquoise, is state share. The yellow 2.93 in the last pie chart there is K-12 and is higher education, sorry. And then the dark one is K-12. So what I'm trying to say here is, as we expand our shared services vision, the more we have, the different components we have, you can see that it shifts. Higher ed generally is an early adopter, so in the early years you can see how we picked it up so quickly. But if you really want to get everything that's on the table and really suck out the profits and the savings that you have to bring these other partners to the table. It's just a telling story. And this is what we probably need to start working together as a community on network services and other things like that. Another example, with statewide networks such as this and all the components on it, where there were 2 RFPs that went out and they still both exist. Higher ed wanted to do a premise-based solution, but state did a cloud-based and everybody's involved. But look at those last 3 bullets. They have shared SIP trunks no matter what kind of service, and guess who they use for connectivity? They want them at OAR Net, because that's the best saving they can have, is to put the SIP trunks right on the backbone, which they are all beginning to see, each community. So hopefully this program will continue further. It's only been 18 months, but almost every institution of everybody that I mentioned has access to this through the state contracting mechanism. These prices have been put up there, and it was a bid and it went through. So I'm just giving you a few examples of immediate savings and good things that come out. And then, as we built the 100 gig, these are some of the benefits. Along with the CCNIE that Ohio State received, about $1 million, one of the first grants, I could then write and send to the administration and say, hey, we haven't even built up yet, but you were asking me for ROI, well, guess what? NSF has just delivered the first check, $1 million. So now I owe you only $12 million back out of the 13 you gave me. But that came federal agencies. So OAR Net now is directly peering with Wright Air Force Base. And guess what they said to us? Wait a minute, it's not just for the base. How if you can connect and we can make you a VLAN connection? So this helped us tremendously, because now our researchers and our constituent group have direct peering access to all of the federal agency sites on the VLAN peering. And they used it as their secondary connection just in case their primary defense network was not operating or needed some support. Similar to NASA, we have NASA Glenn, and we have connectivity directly to NASA. 2 years ago, they had some internal policies and they disconnected any connections besides NASA. We approached them again with the 100 gig and things have changed. So now we are peering with NASA again in Chicago. And guess what? Same thing again. NASA said it would be peering nationally. Why don't we allow you to do that? And so we have that. All of this is a benefit of having the 100 gig network put in place much earlier on and seeing the values across. You can see the spectrum, right? All the way from K-12 into federal agencies making use of this. And then this is something that really I even did not envision would be so powerful. So we have a total of 21 data centers on our backbone. I was talking about it last night in one of your sidebar meetings. And these have come up because these are private sector through RFP process. Some of them are state-owned data centers, others are university-owned data centers, others are city and county-owned data centers. And the strategy we have used is, you are our constituent group. Where do you want to park your data? We will make sure we connect that data center to our backbone. But what this has led to is something beautiful. Ohio State is now backing up secondary backups to Wright State University using the backup. I don't even have to go to the CIO or the director of networking to tell them how much money they're saving, because they know it. If they had a dedicated service and no backbone, we have no additional charge. Whatever the costs are to be on the network, that's what they use. We call that intra-Ohio. And that's just one example. State has put in its RFP that its secondary data center site must be connected to OAR Net, without which the offer will not be credible. So these value adds are coming from places that sometimes you don't even think that they will become. Partnerships with all of you, and Wendy and I have been talking, sidebar. But OAR Net has been doing this. So in 2006, we connected to PSC. That was our first out-of-state connection, because we had fiber that we procured, the 1850 route miles. We had a connection into Pittsburgh. So We work very well with the PSC when we used to be there before with the engineering team, and so we have a direct connection, 10 gig connection today, which can easily be up to 100. Similarly, we've connected and built fiber into Merit. We use some of our VTOP funds to do that using Zayo, our partners in that particular connection. And then we also had connections into West Virginia. Our southern Ohio route went through West Virginia and the fiber route that we had. And so Marshall University used to be our partner even before OAR Net was formally part of it. And so now we have exchanged that, and in fact OAR Net connects to us, and also they aggregate their internet traffic to us. So it's been a very good relationship. And something new, I just put it on this slide because I didn't want to create a new one. But as you all know, Akamai, Netflix, and Google, all three of them are now directly located on our network. And they're doing that with many others in the country. But that is huge because, hey, honestly, like it or not, close to 50% or more traffic going into the university with Netflix. You can check with your independent providers and see. And so this is a huge amount of savings for everyone when they co-locate and bring their devices and their caching mechanism on your net. So we have signed these contracts, and we have all of those three providers on our net. And of course, parallel to this, it's always good to have our national strategy aligned with our state strategy. And so Internet 2 was upgrading, and as part of the design, you can see Cleveland is one of their big pops, big place where a lot of networks come in. And also a node was added in Cincinnati. So what we're going to do is, right now we are in the process of getting that last mile connected between the two POPs, the level 3 POP and our POP in the state. And then we're going to have a redundant connection. So we have 100 gig from Cleveland and another one from Cincinnati at any point. So it does work and align ourselves well with the strategy, aside from the research piece that I mentioned earlier on SDN and on Internet 2's progressive science situation, that the next generation network. So, towards the end of this, let me tell you, as we do this, new things come up, and I have a privilege, and I'm honored that I have now Ohio Supercomputer Center, which has always been, we've had this relationship where they were kind of gave us birth, then we are equals, then the child goes out, child is doing great, which is OAR Net. And supercomputer centers are still working with their old traditional things, but there are some good things that come out. So many of you may have heard about a blue-collar computing program that Stanley Holt and Ashok put together. They're both at Red Sea now, but that was 7-8 years ago, and that was a proof of concept. Well, a lot happened. When I took over, and about 4 or 5 months later, I was at a conference and I found out about a third frontier program for later stage commercialization. So we put together a proposal saying all of this work that has been done in the lab, proof of concept for creating apps. So think about it as apps on an Apple phone, an iPhone or a smartphone, industrial based. So this will not be on a phone, but it will be in small and medium-sized businesses where they can do modeling and simulation. So we put together a proposal with all these players, all of them private sector except for Ohio Supercomputer Center, and they came up with $3 million, and the state matched $3 million. This happened last summer, and now we are on ready to go to create 6 applications over 3 years, which would then be commercialized and put on. So this is the economic development piece. So this was also very well received by the administration when they said, okay, so now this gets to the job creation. Here is a quick clip from what Tom Lang, who I call real father of modeling and simulation in private sector, says.
I would say that the simple word answer for why do we invest in Ohio is it is a complete ecosystem. You have the network speed, you have high performance computing that's secure and at market rates, and you have other players that are up there, both engineering providers and other folks that are outside your industry. And that's an ecosystem that I do not have in any other state and any other institution. And that's why we're here.
That's Tom. And so I'll just give you a glimpse of how we are working with private sector to do this. So this is the latest. This happened about 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned at the beginning 7 false starts, literally. I have 7 MOUs from the state going back to 2002, where we tried to work with them on things. This latest one, and I said in progress, I added that last night because I still don't have the final signed copy in my hand. But I did see a scanned copy where the state CIO has signed, his boss is working on it. Hopefully we'll get there. But this is to collapse the entire state of Ohio backbone onto it. This is a big deal. So every state agency, every last mile going out, would bring it back onto one network. And they said, would you mind if we start calling this one network? So I said, name is no problem, show me the check. So we are expecting this. And just to give you how this works, right? So in our world, OAR Net has been receiving state subsidy because we are not a 501c3. We are a project or an initiative of the Ohio Board of Regents with Ohio State University as our fiscal agent. And so we look back in the history, 1987 onwards, we've received about $3 million straight. So there is no inflationary increase, there is nothing to do with market, it's just what the lawmakers had put in when they created OAR Net. And since then it was, so this morning when we were talking to Dave, I said, it would have been great, everybody would have been in place. We could have used $3.2 million and probably have a 1 gig backbone for everyone. Where would we have been, right? So just to give you an idea, OAR Net's operating budget today is approximately $20 million. You can see the gap of $17 million is all of these services and these partnerships and these agreements which pay for so that we can be serving larger constituent groups, and it grows and it just gives a great amount of savings to everybody. This will add another $3 million to add on to the entire state platform. So it's a big deal for us to have that. And in fact, somebody was talking to our state CIO last week, and they heard it back from them as well that they are collapsing. So we're very proud of this one. Again, 7 false starts, 6 of them. This is the 7th one I think will go forward.